Okay, you're ready to go.
All right. Where is this from?
What the name of it?
Well, this is Brushy Fork of Johns Creek.
Yeah.
And I don't actually remember where I learned this. Art Stamper, probably.
So Meredith, thanks so much for being on Oldtime Central.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you got into playing music in general and old time specifically?
Well, music in general, when I was little, my mom, she was a piano teacher and a elementary music school teacher. And so I started playing piano when I was after first grade, and then took up flute in 7th grade. So it wasn't until later in my life that I heard and then got into old time music. After college, which was in a music ed degree, I moved down to Winston-Salem, and it was there I just heard snippets of old time music, and it didn't catch me then. But then when I moved down to Asheville in '81, I started going to the Old Farmer's Ball, and it was there that I heard old-time music. And Trevor and Travis used to play there a lot, and it was in those days, it was a mix of contra and squares, and so there would be old-time music bands a lot of the time on a Thursday night. And I just thought it sounded so interesting and beautiful that I thought, well, and from my naive classical training, I thought, well, that doesn't sound too hard. Maybe I'll just get a fiddle. So I got a fiddle, and I had some friends that would show me some things, and so it wasn't too long before I thought, ooh, this is going to take longer than I thought. And so I got a bass because I understood music from being trained. I knew chords and keys, and had an ear for that. And so I learned bass fairly fast and was able to play in fairly good or top level sessions pretty quickly, which was good, because then I was right in the middle of some really good ear training for my fiddle endeavors, you know. So, and I'd have to say that I'm still working on fiddle.
Yes.
You know, that's
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, right. And so
Were there not
yeah.
very many bassists around at the time, or you were just good and they liked you?
Yeah, I guess both. You know, I mean, yeah, it was pretty easy to get in a session at, you know, any of the festivals.
Right. And how did you learn bass? I mean, specifically old-time bass at the time.
I think just by hearing, and you know, just some friends that I knew showed me a few things.
Right.
But it didn't really take too long, because I could hear it. You know, I could hear recordings, or I could hear what was supposed to happen.
Right.
I think one of the people that maybe showed me the most was Bob Willoughby.
Okay.
Because he was a friend back when I was starting fiddle, and then I got the bass, and he noted that I had a really good sense of rhythm. So he's like, "Yeah, you're going to do really good on that." And he I don't remember specifically what he showed me, but I would say he was the biggest influence right around then.
And are there specific things that you think make how bass is played in old time different than in, say, bluegrass or other American string band practices?
Well, I guess I can't answer to bluegrass per se. I mean, I just know that I don't work up my chops so that I can take a solo on the bass.
Sure.
You know, that's not something that's going to happen, or am I interested in that. So I think of the bass part as just a really simple kind of ground that is set for the other instruments to be feeling supported by.
Right.
And I actually think of the guitar and the bass as one instrument. So I'm always scooting around a session trying to be right next to the guitar player.
Yeah.
And
you play guitar too, so.
yeah. And so that play between the guitar and bass, I think, really set the ground for the fiddle and banjo.
And for you, what's the fun in playing old-time bass? Because I think some musicians come to it thinking that it's less exciting or less fun than playing like banjo or fiddle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely less demanding in terms of, you know, what you're playing if you play like me. And I guess I don't, when I'm playing in a session that's really working, I feel like we're all equal in making that sound.
Right.
And so, it's the sound that I like. So whatever part that I'm playing, whether it's fiddle, banjo, guitar, or bass, I'm going for that sound. If I alter my bass line because I've gotten bored or something like that and start putting a lot more stuff in, then I'm actually walking away from the sound that I really love.
Right.
So I don't find it boring to be playing the bass in an old time session. And I've always said in the bass classes that I teach, if you play bass and you're learning old time bass, and then you find that you feel like you want something more, you have to ask yourself a question. If I love the instrument, the bass, then I might want to find a different kind of music that's more demanding of that instrument.
Right.
If I like the music that I'm playing,
Right.
then I might need to learn another of those instruments that might be a little more demanding if bass seems a little boring.
Right.
But the thing that I think is not okay is to impose your boredom on the music and change the the sound of it significantly anyway.
Right. And do you? I mean, I think that lots of people have that when you really have fun playing old time, that you understand that it's in very simplistic terms, just the sum is more than the parts.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter what your individual role is, because that's not what it's about.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
And if you're paying attention to your individual role, then this may not be the right musical practice.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
And is that for you informed by other things that you do in life, or is that something that's specific in old time in music?
I think well, it's hard to answer that. I think it seems like whatever I'm doing, I want to be doing that with care. I was actually at Clifftop, and Reese's son Juniper had just finished brushing his long hair, and I said, "Do you want me to braid your hair, Junie?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And so I was doing that, and Becca Wintle was sitting nearby, and at one point she said, "You do that with so much care, and the way I feel is just that if I'm doing something, then I might as well just be doing that thing, whatever it is." So I would say that that's kind of a thread that runs through or at least hopefully
Right.
runs through everything that I do. There might be a background in my. I have had a sitting practice, sitting meditation practice for a long time, and I think part of the point of that is to practice something so simple of just sitting and, just really just that. Easier said than done,
right.
But I think that I may have been attracted to that practice because of something in my character, but I think that practice has also supported maybe that thing in my character,
right.
Whereas I want to be doing whatever it is with care and attention. And then the other thing that is kind of parallel or threading through there is that I was a massage therapist for a long time, and still certified and do a little bit of massage, but I also then went to Alexander Technique teacher training, and I'm a teacher of Alexander Technique. And that too is looking at things in a way with refined interest of easy coordination or in what you're doing, and awareness of what you're doing while you're doing it. So that's sort of another thread that seems in a similar vein.
Right.
All right, this is Sally Ann. It's from Yancey County. I learned it from Bruce Green.
And so do you have particular, what do you think is a good way for people who are trying to get into playing old-time bass? What's just a good approach?
Well, I don't know. That's a little bit hard to answer because my answer would depend on whether I knew if the person already played music
Right.
or if they were new to music. So, I don't know specifically how I would answer that, but what I say to everybody is listen to a lot of recordings. And for bass listening, it may not just be the fiddle tunes that you would, they're a little more abstract in some cases, because in a lot of tunes there are different choices where which chord would be okay. And in some cases, it's just really hard to hear a chord unless your ear's trained.
Right.
But gospel music, early country music, things that have some words and that would have more obvious chord changes, if people could start listening to that and listening to the bass like that, just to train your ear for chord changes. And if someone was asking me to help them, I have a little handout that I give at Swananoa gathering for my bass classes, and it goes through, how you would do your right hand and left hand,
Right.
and chords and keys and
Right.
lots of different things.
So I often ask the question, there are lots of things that all of us could spend our time on in life.
Mm-hmm.
Why spend time playing old time?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I really like, I like the music. I like the music. I like how it sounds. I like the place that it has in most people's lives, which is not too serious, but at the same time important. So I think that's a cool combination. There are a lot of times when something is important, then there's a certain gravity that comes with it, but I don't think that's true with most people that I know that play old time music.
Yeah.
And that's just a delightful thought, in these times. I just think that's something that's irreplaceable.
Right.
And so I think that the people that share that, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing. So then when you get together with people that say that same thing,
Right.
that's even better, because then you have friends that you're all saying that same thing.
Right. That's amazing. I never thought about that. So what I heard was that it moves towards this interesting concept but difficult practice of love without attachment. That you really care for something, but you don't take it too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about the attachment part, but because I don't know, it would be interesting if you couldn't play music, how that would be. But my guess is that you would find how important the relationships are that you have with people in the old time music scene that go way beyond the music.
Right.
Actually, I should say I could give myself as an example, because I've had tendinitis 2 different times. And I didn't have to not play music at all, but I couldn't play certain instruments during that time. And so there were 2 different festival years where I went and didn't play any music. And they were just as fun and fruitful. You know, I mean, I just would sit in the middle of a jam, you know, if I knew the people, and
Sure.
they were okay with that. And I listened in a different way than if I was playing.
Right. Sure.
So, and that, I mean, I have to say that I think that's one thing that for me in playing bass is a kind of a secret gift, because it's not hard to play the bass. And so I feel like I can spend, or I have more attention to just notice everything that's going on in that session and in people around me and around, you know, the bigger environment.
Right.
Whereas if I'm playing certainly fiddle, whoa, there's more things to attend to, you know.
Right. Right.
So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Okay. I guess one last question comes to mind, which is just that, you know, you've been playing old time for a long time and just in touch with pretty active parts of the community and the scene. What are the things that you're seeing now that excite you?
About the old time music
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's the young kids. I mean, they're fantastic. And they're really nice people. I mean, it just makes me tear up, because they take it. It's that thing about being important, but not too serious, you know. They really listen, they play, they practice. They're getting better and better. I mean, and they play great. And they also take it upon themselves to care about community. So they'll have little, potluck parties and everything. And so, yeah, that's the most exciting thing to me, is there's a whole other generation that's just picking it up, you know, and taking it in their big arms.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, 8th of January.
This is from Fraser and Patterson.